day once again. Today I'm gonna making a pan-fried chicken breast fillet and my simple pork mushroom stew in a big batch cooking. This food will be stored in the freezer for our future meals. I'll start by combining the chicken marinade, and first to go is a few drops of olive oil and then a soy sauce. I'm not measuring my ingredients and just kind of estimating depending on the quantity of my meat. And then the lemon pepper, you can just use freshly squeezed lemon juice, but I'm using both just so I don't need to add salt in this marinade. Then the dried rosemary slightly crushed in the mortar in order to get the most of the flavor out of it. Then there's my lemon juice. Unfortunately, I don't have fresh lemon available at home. And last but no least is the minced garlic, the 2 cloves of garlic I'm using in this marinade. And then I'll stir it well. Then I'll pour over directly to my chicken fillet and mixing them well, making sure that each fillet is well coated with the marinade. And for best result, it is recommended to marinate your chicken inside the refrigerator for at least 2 hours. But I'm frying my chicken fillet 30 minutes from now, so I'll just cover the meat and set aside readily available when it is time to fry them. So I have prepared earlier the marinade for my pork, and now it's marinated. I'm almost using the same basic ingredients for my pork and my chicken marinade, just a slight difference. I'll now go ahead for the remaining 4 ingredients for my pork stew: 2 red onions, 2 cloves of garlic, some button mushrooms, and 2 carrots. And if in case you wonder why I'm doing big batch cooking, well, it's of course I'm freezing them for our future meals. It's very convenient for me just to go downstairs and get some frozen foods and just run it in a microwave and ready to eat. So now I'll be cooking the pork stew ahead of the chicken fillet. And while sauteing the onion and garlic in the casserole, I'll be frying the marinated diced pork in a separate pan to allow it to become golden brown. This method is called searing the meat before adding it into my pork stew casserole. The onions are now soft and translucent, so I will add in the sliced button mushrooms and give them a quick stir so that the mushrooms are well covered with oil. And for the meanwhile, my diced pork is now nicely golden brown. As you can see, the searing is done. I remove the pan from the heat, at the same time transferring my casserole for a bigger burner while adding the pork in my stew. I'm pouring hot water into the skillet to soften the flavor that was left in there, and then I'll pour it over to my casserole. And then I'll be adding more hot water in my stew because we need enough water to allow the meat to become soft and tender. Also, it is now easier for me to clean the skillet for my chicken fillet. I'll now cover slightly open the casserole and allowing the stew to work for its own. And so I will proceed for the frying of my chicken fillet. But first, I will be creating crisscross cuts on the surface of the fillet. That's the outer part of the meat where the skin is sitting. the purpose of which is not only to create a beautiful finesse, but also to allow the heat of the pan spread more evenly into the chicken meat, and also to allow the seasoning penetrate deeply into the meat. And I'm using here Knorr meat powder. It is a very perfect seasoning, a taste enhancer, and especially for the pan fried chicken meat. And as a reminder, chicken meat is very sensitive and it can be easily contaminated with bacteria, so be careful in preparing your chicken meat. When I'm done seasoning the meat on both sides, it's time to heat the pan while making a quick check into my pork stew, and it's doing well. So I'm gonna heat the oil. I'm using actually a liquid butter. You can use olive oil or just vegetable oil as you like. Now the butter is turning brown and it almost stopped bubbling. So I'll arrange the chicken fillet properly to accommodate for chicken fillet in this tiny skillet. And I let it fried in medium heat for 8 to 10 minutes before I turn it over. And for the while, I will add in the carrots in my pork stew. It's halfway through, and I'll give it a quick stir, and I will allow it to cook further. Time to flip over the chicken fillet and fry the other side for also 8 to 10 minutes. And when the timestamp is over, the meat should be firm when you press with your ladle, and when it is not, I have to turn it over again until the meat is well done. And look at this beautiful chicken fillet. Now making a firm test of my meat, and I know that they are well done. And I could also slice it into half, and it should be white. The meat should be white and not rosy, otherwise it's undercooked. And unlike when you're cooking a whole chicken and you make a cut, and the juice that comes out from the meat should be clear and not rosy, because you will never eat or serve your family with undercooked chicken. And now over to my pork and mushroom stew, and I will check the meat if it's soft and tender by just pulling it with my thumb and big finger. You see how soft it is, so it's done. So I'll go ahead with the thickening of the sauce by dissolving 2 tablespoons of flour with 1 deciliter cream, or you can use milk if you like. I will see to it that it is well dissolved because I don't like clumps in my stew. And to make it sure, I will pull a strainer and strain the mixture right into my casserole. For the final touch, I will add in dried basil leaves in my stew and seasoned with salt and pepper. You can also add dried rosemary leaves if you like. And now my pork and mushroom stew is done. As simple as it is to make this recipe with just very simple ingredients, although it took some time, maybe I think almost an hour to finish the cooking, but it was all worth the labor and time. Look at that thick and creamy sauce in your casserole. That's heavenly good. And that's so delicious in your rice, in your pasta, or in your potatoes if you like. And you can make your own version by adding other kinds of vegetables if you like. And believe me, this is heavenly good. And I thank you for watching. Keep safe.